Interstate 485, North Carolina, yeah. All right, the Chiefs are playing the Panthers, so we're looking at Interstate 485, the Charlotte Beltway. We're doing an all North Carolina video here, so am I petty enough to wear a KU National Championship from 2022 t-shirt? Of course I am. Of course. 485 is a fairly recent beltway that was started in the 90s and finished in 2015, so let's take a look at this somewhat new road. Let's take a look at the route. 485 circles Charlotte. Straight up, that's what it does. I always talk inner loop, outer loop, and so does this beltway, so that makes things easier. We're going to start by talking about the inner loop. Here we are cruising under I-77. This is a pretty cool view of these flyovers right above us. And exit 1 comes right after I-77. For whatever reason, the 0 mile on 485 is I-77. Why didn't they name it 477? Or put the 0 mile at I-85? Who knows? You're watching Control City Freak. This is the YouTube channel where we talk about highways and the place that they're assigned to go to. If you dig this kind of content, why not give us a like? And if you really like it, why not subscribe? Yeah, subscribe. At random interchanges in this part of town, we're not getting any kind of control city. We're just getting 485 north and inner, 485 south and outer. So I feel like that's fairly helpful signage. So good job, North Carolina. Our first major interchange is exit 9, where we are meeting US 29 and US 74, and this is also the exit for the Charlotte Airport. Ryan Nichols requested that I talk about the Charlotte Airport, it being the second biggest American Airlines hub that it inherited from US Air, and I'm happy to talk about the Charlotte Airport. Thanks for that request. The Charlotte Airport I've actually been to many times. Ryan requested that on the Patreon, and all paid members of the Patreon can make exit requests and point of interest requests, and I appreciate everybody who does. You can also make a request the old-fashioned way by leaving a $5 super thanks on any comment to request roads that I have upcoming. You can always see in the description or the community tab which roads I'm going to be covering next, and thanks everybody who does that too. Shortly after leaving the airport area, we are meeting I-85. I-85 is signed for Spartanburg and Greensboro. Good signage. I don't know why I-85 North is not signed for Charlotte, because that's the way into downtown Charlotte, but it is what it is. We meet North Carolina 16, it is signed for Newton and Brookshire Road, so that's a somewhat major exit. Oakdale Road coming up soon. Into these random interchanges, we're getting inner north Statesville. That's not great. You guys all know I don't feel like Statesville should really be signed in any direction. It's part of the Charlotte CSA. It's only 30,000 people. There's always better things to sign no matter which way you're going. Exit 21 is Harris Boulevard, North Carolina 24. This was requested by TheDerpHog. He wanted to mention that North Carolina 24 is the longest highway in North Carolina, and this is its start. So that's pretty awesome, and I appreciate that. Thanks for that request. We meet I-77, signed for Charlotte, so we signed Charlotte inbound on 77, but not 85. And Statesville, 77's a tricky duck. You could just sign it for Cleveland, honestly. But Charleston, West Virginia, or Wytheville would probably be the way to go. Even Huntersville is where we're generally signed to. You could sign it for Huntersville because it's just a mile or so up the road off of 485 to the north, and it's bigger than Statesville. This is the newest section of I-485, opened in 2015. We are getting 485 inner. I like that they have inner just right up on the sign there. That's cool. For Matthews, and north 85 for Greensboro, south 85 for Spartanburg. So again, we're getting longer distance control cities on 85 than we are on 77 for reasons. This is the Governor James G. Martin Freeway. It is one of 4 different names that this freeway has, which seems kind of excessive for one beltway to have 4 different names. I think the answer obviously would be to get rid of all these names and just name it the Ric Flair Freeway. Meeting US 29 once again, signed for Charlotte and Concord has kind of a lot going on, so that makes sense for it to be signed as a suburb of Charlotte coming out of here. We are approaching exit 33, which also has a lot going on. It is the exit for UNC Charlotte, so go 49ers. I know that from NCAA tournament time. This exit is also for PNC Pavilion, and that was requested by Ryan Nichols as well. He wanted any sign for PNC Pavilion, so this is actually the only one that I could find. I couldn't find one going in the other direction, and he said he has seen lots of awesome shows there. The Cure, Fish, and Radiohead most notably. super jealous of that Radiohead one, absolutely. And thanks for that request. Here's the actual sign for Exit 33, Harrisburg and University City Boulevard, North Carolina 49. This was requested by TheDerpHog because this is where he got on the Beltway the last time he was on it. I've actually never been on this Beltway before. I've only been to Charlotte once, and I stayed at my buddy's house in town. I guess Uptown, I guess is what they call it. Charlotte was cool. I liked Charlotte a lot. I really enjoyed hanging out in Charlotte the night that I was there. And here we get an actual inner 485 reassurance shield, so that's pretty cool. We're meeting US 74, a fairly major US highway for North Carolina. Signed west for Charlotte, so we get Charlotte on inbound for that road, east for Monroe. We'll talk about that on the other side. We're meeting US 521 south, so I assume this is the beginning of 521. We are getting inner 485 to I-77 as our control point. Exit 65 is coming up. We're getting the President James K. Polk Historic Site. It's a lot better than promoting Benjamin Harrison. We are getting a Lynx Park and Ride. There is actually an I-45 station that is right there for Charlotte's light rail system. Exit 65 is the South Boulevard exit, so I decided to just get off the exit and show you that 485 station. This was requested by Ryan Nichols. He wanted to talk about the light rail system in Charlotte and say that it was pretty good, running from 5 a.m. till 2 a.m., and that's fantastic. And take the light rail home from the bar. Good job, Charlotte. That's cool that they are building that out, and he says he's jealous of that Raleigh doesn't have any sort of thing like that. Thanks for that request. I appreciate that. We are approaching I-77 and US 21. US 21 is concurrent with I-77 throughout Charlotte, but they don't sign it at the other I-77 exit, only at this one. This is exit 67, so we are on inner 485 to South 85 Huntersville. Huntersville is the official designation for 485 in this direction. 77 is signed for Columbia and Charlotte and to North 85. All right, that is the end. Right after that is where we started, so let's take a look at the outer loop. Coming south on I-77, this is our ramp to 485. We get South 485 outer and North 485 inner. Two different freeway names because we've got 4 freeway names altogether to deal with. North 485 Huntersville, South Pineville. We'll talk about those a little later, but Pineville, a little small. Northbound on I-77, we are getting 485 Pineville, Huntersville, and Westinghouse Boulevard and the James G. Martin Freeway. Once you exit off of that, you find out that it is the Martin Freeway on the outer loop and the Good Freeway on the inner loop. Well, we did the inner loop toward Huntersville already. We will do the outer loop for Pineville. We get exit 65B for Polk Street. That is the exit for the Polk Memorial, and that South Boulevard exit is coming up as well. That overpass right in front of us is the Lynx track, the light rail. Interesting, we're also getting 485 to 521. We pass right by Ballantine Corporate Park. This is a fairly major development right on the southern fringe of Charlotte and southern 485. Lots of construction going on here, and we are getting 521 Johnson Road, exit 61, and outer 485 has no Control City on it. This exit was requested by CforCat because he used to live in South Carolina right near here at Fort Mill, and he used this route to commute into Uptown and to the Charlotte airport, and he's got good memories of this interchange. Looks like it's changing quite a bit here too, so thanks for that request. Meeting US 74 once again, signed for Charlotte and Monroe, just like before. I really feel like US 74 should be signed for Wilmington. I know Monroe is maybe somewhat substantial, but Wilmington is a much bigger city, and this is the fastest way to Wilmington from Charlotte. You get a little I-74 on the way there too. When US highways are not concurrent with anything, when they are the fastest route to a major city, sign the major city on the US highway. On US 74, we get South 485 inner for Pineville. We are beyond Pineville now, and North 485 for Huntersville. Here's a look at 485 as we continue north, and this is kind of the furthest away from any exits that we get. At exit 41, we meet State Route 24 once again, and 27, we meet it on both sides of the loop. And now we are heading toward Concord, so we are getting Charlotte Motor Speedway, exit 32. Exit 32 is US 29, so US 29 signed for Charlotte and Concord. We're getting I-85 Spartanburg Greensboro, 1 mile ahead. Quite a sign here. We're getting 485 outer to 77 north Huntersville, I-85 to 77 south Spartanburg Greensboro. They're telling us quite a lot here. Fairly well done. This is probably how I would sign this sign. This is what it looks like from southbound I-85. We get 85 to South 77, 485 inner for Matthews, and 45 outer to North 77, Huntersville. And here's another one of our highway names. I'm blacking it out because it's just some rich real estate guy. I don't know. Maybe he's an okay guy. I don't know him. But just feels like not somebody you would name a highway for, just some real estate rich dude. Especially since this was originally going to be named for some school superintendent. And then they kind of ripped that away in 2015 once this section opened and named it after the other guy instead. Seems like shenanigans to me, but I don't actually know the full story. We're meeting I-77, signed for Statesville and Charlotte, and 485 outer for Pineville now at this point. So we do get an overhead sign again for 485. They kind of do a little better on this section of signing control cities on 485. On southbound I-77, we are getting 485 to I-85, Pineville and Matthews, exit only here. We meet Harris Boulevard once again, North Carolina 24. This exit for North Carolina 24 was requested by RealTony. Actually, I had two requests, so I'm doing one in one direction, one in the other. And he requested this for the same reason the TheDerpHog did, because North Carolina 24 is the longest highway in North Carolina, and that it goes all the way to Morehead City. So thank you so much for that request. Really weird though, how at major interchanges we are getting suburban places like Pineville, Matthews, and at smaller interchanges we are getting places that are on the parent routes, so Statesville and Spartanburg signed at this minor interchange. Exits 9 and 10 are all coming off of one ramp, I-85, US 29, and US 74, Greensboro, Spartanburg, and Wilkinson Boulevard. I feel like saying Charlotte International Airport, one of the busiest airports in the country, might be more important than putting Wilkinson Boulevard on there if you're throwing 3. On that distributor ramp, we see 85 South Gastonia, Spartanburg, and 85 North Greensboro. And then when we get to the 85 North Greensboro exit, now we are getting 29 and 74 for the airport. Further down at random interchanges, now we're getting Spartanburg and Columbia at our random intersections. And this is an interesting sign because we get exit 1 and then 1 mile after that exit 67, because this is where we are looping back again. North Carolina 49 and 77 and US 21, Columbia, Charlotte 1 mile. Here's our ramp off for 77 and US 21, and 485 outer is signed for Pineville at this point. All right, let's talk about TODs the way it should be for Interstate 485. Inner, starting from I-77, it should be signed for CLT Airport and Spartanburg. I wouldn't sign it for Huntersville, even though it's somewhat big, because you're better off staying on I-77 to go to Huntersville. Then I would sign it Spartanburg after the airport. After I-85, I'd sign it Huntersville and Concord with the NASCAR track and the PNC Pavilion. Following I-77, I would just sign it for Concord. After 85, I would sign it for Matthews and Wilmington because of that intersection with US 74. And then after US 74, for Columbia, South Carolina. On the outer loop, I would start signing it Matthews and Wilmington coming out of I-77 in that direction. After meeting US 74, I would then sign it for Concord and Greensboro. After meeting I-85, I would sign it for Huntersville until I-77, and then from I-77 sign it Spartanburg until I-85, and then sign it Columbia. I'd leave Pineville out of the mix because it's only 20,000 people, whereas Huntersville and Matthews are considerably bigger. All right, thank you so much for watching this episode of Control City Freak. I really appreciate it. This has been fun going back to North Carolina, seeing sometimes they actually do things pretty well. And like I said, the one time I was in Charlotte, it's a great city. I really enjoyed my time there. And until next time, my name is Todd, and keep on trucking.